Hey guys, my name is Gino Manley, and if you follow me on social media, what you will see a lot of is racing and motorsport. And for the past decade, I've kind of got a little bit of a following from people that see me racing cars and playing with cars. And it is probably the passion of a lifetime to some weekends say I'm a race car driver. Now, also that comes with that is a lot of people say, hey, do you do this for a living? And I wish I could say I was in racing for a living, but unfortunately things just didn't work out for me. I wasn't in karting at a young age. When I was coming up as a kid, I was following my father, who was in retail automotive, working for a car dealership. So as it happened, when I was 18 years old, I took a summer job at a car dealership, and this has since become my career. Now, it's a little interesting. A lot of younger kids that are getting into racing or in motorsport, or I meet at car shows, they are always curious as to what my personal profession is, and that would be retail automotive and being involved in the dealer environment. Now, I always try to separate my personal racing life and my professional career. And sometimes they bleed over. And if you follow me and some of my closer friends know that, hey, he works at a dealership and that's how he pays the bills. But I finally feel like, hey, it might be time to talk about it. And the reason why is a couple years ago, Grassroots Motorsports did an article about me and said, hey, he's a by-the-day used car manager at a dealership in Jacksonville. And on the weekends, he plays IMSA racer. And what happened was pretty cool. A lot of people in my same profession reached out and said, hey, what you're doing is really, really cool. And just every single weekend I'm out at a racetrack, somebody says, hey, I'm a car salesman, or I run a store, I'm a service manager. And I always think it's a little unique that guys like me have used their vocation of retail and selling cars to fund a lot of times their hobby. I know for me, when I first got into racing, because of some of the success I had in the retail environment, it helped me able to afford that. And luckily now my racing has taken its own life of its own, and my career is also, a separate entity. So for me, my career has always taken the first priority and racing has always been second. Doesn't always seem like that on social media because it's social media. But I kind of want to take a little bit of time and kind of give back and particularly help guys like myself that love cars but might want a career and they don't really know where to go. And I don't think a lot of people realize what a great industry retail automotive, being a car salesman, being in a dealership is. So my goal with this new series, I Sell Cars to Race Cars, is to introduce you guys to people, mentors, friends that have made their career in the retail automotive space and sometimes have used some of that success to fund their personal hobby of racing or cool cars or whatever it may be, because there's a lot of gearheads that are guys and girls that are in this retail environment. So I don't think there's any better guest to have on than my friend. I consider you a mentor. I know I bounce a lot of ideas off you. Sure. And that would be Mr. Aaron Mong. Now, Aaron has what I consider probably the dream job. Now, if you're in motorsport, the name Brumos needs no introduction. And even though it's a little bit different down the line, you are the general manager of Porsche Jacksonville, which not too long ago, I remember being a kid driving by was Brumos. So I'd like to introduce you. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy to come out here and do this. So
I'm excited to be here. Happy to.
Awesome. Well, I just want to jump right in. So I met you, we've been in the same industry we just talked about I've been in this retail and motor space 11 years, kind of the same for you. I think we knew of each other, but we really got to know each other and bond through motorsport. Some guy named Mike Gorman, who, if you watch my other show, you kind of know a lot about. But we met through kind of the motorsport space and kind of discovered each other through that. But just talk a little bit. So retail automotive, that's your career, your vocation. And how did you get started in that? And give us a little timeline.
Yeah, I mean, that's just naturally was in a different industry, real estate industry in the late 2000s when the real estate market crashed and really was looking for a job. I mean, it's that simple. And I knew some people that were selling cars and said, well, man, I really need a job after the real estate market, took a dump and said, maybe I'll try this for a while. Maybe I'll try selling cars, and made a phone call to somebody I'd bought cars from in the past that was in management and decided, let me see if I can get a job and see how that goes until I can get back into real estate or find my career and what I really wanted to do. Naturally, I've been a car guy since I was a kid, generationally, like you mentioned. My father had a car, collection or tinkered with cars growing up and was always interested in them. And I thought, well, it might be something fun to do, right? It'd be a fun job. I can mess around with cars and sell cars and meet some people car related and kind of see where it went. And frankly, fell in love with it. I after just a few short months, it was really quickly I realized there could be something more here for me. This could be a career and not just a job.
No.
That was, it's been over a decade now ago.
So I don't want to. I want to stay on that topic, but we do have to stop because we are car guys. So when I first met you, you had a GT3. You have another GT3. You have a Porsche Cup car, race car that's sitting in your dealership right now. That
True.
I'm going to race. You just don't know it yet.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about. We can't beat the car guys and not talk about it. So current cars now. I know you just got a new one, and some of the cool cars in the past you've had.
Yeah, I mean, naturally, running a Porsche store currently, I'm Porsche heavy, and that's where my focus is. I've got as you mentioned, a new 992 GT3 I just took delivery of. That'll be sort of a DE car and something that's a dream car for me. It was a goal to buy a new car, new Porsche, and a new GT3. So I just took delivery of that. I've got a 1996 993 air-cooled Porsche.
I forgot about that one.
Porsche
Yeah.
Classic dealer. We'll maybe talk about that and what the industry has to offer there for classic cars. But last of the air-cooled 993 generation, 911, and then as you mentioned, just recently acquired that 2004 996 Cup car as a personal project for me for driver development and what I want to do that we've alluded to, and also for something we want to work on with the team.
Yeah.
In retail automotive, and something that we share a passion for, and we wanted a project to work on, and we saw an opportunity, so about that. So 3 911s currently.
Well, you can never have too many 911s, right?
True.
So,
yeah. One is never enough with 911.
Okay, so I just kind of want to jump right in, and we'll just start off with something that I think, again, if my mind is a lot of kids I meet, and I say kids, 18, 19 years old, they think that, hey, I need to go to college. If I want to work with cars, I might need to be an engineer. I might be a mechanic. It's just, for car guys, there isn't a degree to go out there and work in cars. Again, short of being, there in the mechanic or technician space. So when people think about car salesman, it's not a sexy job. It's not being a lawyer. It's not being a doctor. And even I grew up in this business, and I still struggle with that. I mean, I feel like I have had a successful career. I do, quite a while for myself. But, you tell somebody, you work at a dealership, there's kind of work, again, that people don't really see it as a career. So talk about that. Again, being a general manager, you've worked yourself up to essentially at a store. Now, again, sometimes they're family owned. Obviously, you guys are more of a corporate owned store now, but you are the highest, authority at that dealership on a day-to-day operation. You pretty much are over every operation there. So talk a little bit how you deal with that, about how your career, again, I mean, ultimately, even though I'm in the management space, I'm still a car salesman.
Same.
Yeah. So talk about how you kind of deal with that and your thoughts on how people view the industry.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. A car salesman as a title has had a stigma to it, and that was created decades ago for a lot of reasons that we don't need to get into now. But that's totally changed with the modern market, and this really become a customer service industry, just like anything else. It's a consumer good, and there's dealerships and companies that are in competition for people's business based solely on the level of service that they're willing or able to offer. And that stigma is not completely gone, but especially in the Highline side of the business, both of us, we sell some Highline vehicles, and it's helpful from a recruitment standpoint. People want to work for a prestigious brand. They want to work for a brand that's respected, and that's helpful there too. But, back to what the industry really is, and you're exactly right. I mean, we're still out there really just trying to provide great service to people. It's a customer service industry. And that stigma, I believe the longer I've been in this business, and like I said, over the past decade, it's really started to go to the wayside. And I think that's just something.
Well, when you show up in your new GT3, it's like, you can think what you want, right? So
yeah, I mean, there's a portion of that I believe in the brand that I work for.
Right.
I always try to drive the brand that we do. I think it's no secret that I probably would not be driving a new GT3 if it weren't for the fact that I work there. And there's some perks of the job.
Of course.
Car deals, we get great deals on working on our cars, on servicing our cars, on buying our cars. And that's another perk of the job, that we can talk about too, that is a benefit. I mean, most of the people that, that we're talking about that have an interest in cars or racing and passion for that hobby, it's a nice benefit of the job to be able to work in an industry where we provide those services, we provide those parts, and we we buy and sell and trade cars, and to be able to get wholesale pricing on those items, or the ability to get some discounted rates on working on the cars or parts, is definitely an added benefit. If you're a car guy and you're into racing, naturally working in this industry has got its perks.
Well, there's a reason why everything I've always raced has generally been one of our brands. Whether it's a BMW or a Mazda. I mean, I've driven some other stuff, but now, so I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. So you're at the Porsche store, which I know, that's kind of like your dream job, to be able to represent that brand. I mean, that store, what a historic store. I mean, that's just there. I can't think of any other store that has quite that history in motorsport and racing. So when you walk in every day, I know it's changed ownership, but you still got to kind of feel that aura of the Brumos team.
It is. The lineage is there. And I worked for Brumos for several years during when they still owned the stores, and they were sold in 2016 to the Fields Auto Group. And I worked for the Mercedes store for a decade before I moved to Porsche. And that was a lot of the attraction that I had to work for Brumos at the time, was the fact that they were involved with motorsports. I've been a Porsche fan, motorsports fan, racing fan my whole life. And to work for Brumos, I just felt like there had to be some connection there between a company that's got this much racing heritage and, where can that take me, and what can that do? I had never anticipated that, 10 years later, I'd have an opportunity to run the Porsche store, previously Brumos.
Right.
And it's great. And we have lots of employees and team members that are still with Brumos, that were on the race teams with Peter Gregg all the way back in the 70s. We've got still a couple team members that were there, and I still will open a file sometimes and pull out stuff, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm holding this here, and being able to have a personal relationship at this point with Hurley Haywood, and I'm sure.
So, and he's still on as an ambassador of the store?
He is. He's an honorary ambassador for the store, just based on the history of Porsche in Jacksonville, and it lives on. The motorsports history that we've had and the lineage definitely lives on. We're taking Porsche Jacksonville into this next wave of DE drivers, and the segment of our business that will do the maintenance on their DE cars and set up for them. And a little bit about that.
I do, yeah.
I've seen many a car in our alignment rack and ready for.
I think that's cool too. And not to get too off topic, but I always believe no matter what brand it is, whether it's you could be a Ford store, you could be a Porsche store, a Mercedes store. If your leader or your general manager at that store believes in the brand, it's gonna show. And so, again, I've been around this business long enough where you get some guy who doesn't really care for the cars. He runs the store. No one really believes in the brand. When you go to your store, because you're a Porsche guy, there's always, some track day GT3 outside on display, usually a customer car. So you really, because you appreciate the brand. So I mean, let's kind of jump into that, a little bit. Do you think that because you believe in the brand, the store is better for it? I mean, I feel like it is.
It has to be, and that doesn't just apply to Porsche because of the Brumos lineage there. When I was with Mercedes, I was 100% bought into the product there, and I know that you drive and race your product that you sell. And we've all heard the terms, race on Sunday, sell on Monday.
Right.
Or we race what we sell, and that's important. There are several brands, and I think you bring up a good point. You've got to buy in and believe in the product that you're selling, I believe, to be successful with it. I mean, that's a simple, a simple concept that I think applies to most industries, but it definitely applies to, we're in a highly competitive industry. There are tons of great cars out there, tons of great brands out there, and they all have their following and client base, and engaging in that with your client base, engaging in that personally with the brand that you sell or work on or represent is ultra important. I think it makes a huge difference in your happiness in the workplace. You're working with something that you genuinely have interest in and enjoy, and that's conveyed through your body language or through your excitement or verbally with your customer base too.
So, okay, we touched on earlier. In my opinion, I've hired salesmen, from people that are looking for a second career, kind of like your situation, to kids fresh out of high school, wide-eyed looking for a job. And I think that one of the stigmas that, particularly in the retail automotive space in the sales side, is people say, this is a temporary job. I'm going to go sell cars until I can find something better. Kind of like you mentioned, or, man, there's not a lot of people hiring. I'm going to go try to sling metal this, and see what happens. So, again, I think a lot of people find that if you treat this as a career, and I'll get your thoughts on this, is I can't think of a profession that you could go in first year, believe in what you're doing, get some sales skills, make, six figures, very realistically, depending on what brand you're with, have no college degree, no prior experience, and get to play with cars. I mean, and when I say it like that, I know it sounds a little too good to be true, but I mean, how many times have you seen people enter the brand, never sold a car, they're car guys, they know what they're selling, they kind of polish some sales skills, and before you know it, they have very, very, very successful incomes.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about those of us that are successful in this industry, we see all the time, why aren't more people interested in getting in the automotive retail segment? You touched on briefly earlier that maybe a little bit of a stigma as a car salesman, but I think most of that's gone at this point, and we've got several different jobs. I think our service departments offer plenty of opportunities for great rewarding careers, as does the sales department, operations, parts department. And as you know, the more focus on customer service and less on sales that the industry has moved, we've got these supporting roles that are customer service focused, whether it's going over the technology of the cars, whether it's following up with the customers and just making sure they have a good customer experience. Those elements transfer industry to industry. But to answer your question, there's not many jobs I think that you can walk into with no degree, no education. And that's a thing. That's a known element of our business. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we look around, we're at work, and most of us, not all, but most of us landed in that job out of a necessity or because we didn't have the necessary education requirements for some of the other industries that require those, and found a home in retail automotive. But you're absolutely right. The income opportunity is tremendous. I talk about all the time the camaraderie that is a sales team.
Correct. Yep.
Sales team. I mean, if you like to work with people and work with a team, that's ultra important to me. And you find that you've got a whole nother work family that you work with there. But great, you're exactly right. Great opportunities, high income level opportunities, and not a lot of required education to do that. So,
and I think too, everybody in the world is going to at some point do business with a car dealer. I mean, unless you're buying, privately, for which I just don't, or you're servicing a car. I don't think people really realize what the operation of a dealership is. Not yet alone a group, but like one store. You mentioned it. You have a management team, you have a sales team, you have a service team, you have a parts team, you have a recon team. So, I mean, is that something that, again, you think that still surprises you just as being the head of that dealership, a Highline Porsche store? Just talk a little about just how many moving pieces there are and the challenges that kind of come with that.
Sure. You've got, like you mentioned, several different departments that
right.
all have to work together, right? The parts department is going to support the service technicians, and the service technicians are going to work on the car, and that information needs to be conveyed to the customers through the service advisors. And then, of course, the sales team that that's the simple part, right? Somebody comes in, they want to buy a car. It's a simple.
I think that's what people think all we do.
Right. It's a simple retail transaction, and you sell them a car. But to your point, other than buying a home, a car is usually the largest financial transaction people are going to make. And then entailed with that is typically financing with banks and lending. We've got state regulations that
tell me about it.
Right, that we need to make sure that we comply with, that we register these cars with the state. These vehicles need maintenance. People are typically trading in a product or another car. So, that's something different that you don't see in any other retail, right? How often do you take something that you already own and you go and you trade it in, and you've got to find a value for that? And so the transaction is a bit more complex than your average retail transaction on anything else. There's been lots of efforts to try to simplify that and convey to the public that this is really an easy transaction you can make from your couch. And we've seen
there's on the news. There's some
news
some vending machine style stores that aren't working out.
It's not worked out so well, because this is the level of transaction, like I said, for most people, that's important enough to them, whether financially, especially it's their transportation. It's a large transaction, and it takes somebody with genuine care to take care of that transaction for them, to take care of the maintenance on those vehicles for them. And it takes a team and several departments to do that, to keep that going.
Well, and I think I get arguments about this all the time. You have your Teslas and you have your big box. People are saying Amazon is still cars. But it's like America as a whole, we like cars. We're, again, cars are freedom. And I think people still want to, there's still an emotional attachment to going in and trying out cars and looking at cars and dealing with car people. So, again, yeah, I mean, at least in my mind, people see them as customers, but these are guests. They're coming. They're also people that love what they're buying. This is not buying an appliance. You're buying freedom, to how you're going to carry your family around. So no, I think you're absolutely right. There is that human element to this, and it kind of transitions next to what I want to talk about next is, if you're a younger guy and you want to start this business, I mean, again, we talked about you don't have to have a degree. In my mind, I hire a lot of, younger guys and girls that are salesmen. And I say, listen, just be personable, have a good work ethic, and you'd be very surprised what you can do in this business. So, I mean, what are some traits that you'd say you'd tell a new aspiring salesman that wants to get into retail to have?
Sure. I mean, the things that you can show up at work that require, zero skill or talent for, and that's showing up with a good attitude, right? That's showing up being willing to listen, that's showing up, back to just a good attitude and willing to be willing to help somebody. And, that's ultra important, I think, as somebody's willing to enter. Some of the best recruits that I've seen have been people that are in the service industry, bartenders, servers, people willing to have.
That's wild you say that, because I 100% agree with that.
Absolutely. Easy conversation with people and just have genuine care to want to take care of somebody. Listen to them. The thing about the modern dealership world now is that it's largely dominated by big publicly traded companies that own most of the stores.
Correct. Yeah.
And then family groups that have several stores. The independent mom and pop stuff doesn't exist much anymore, at least in the case of new car retailers, right?
No, correct. No, you're correct in that.
So, and most of our stores, I know yours do and ours do, we have processes in place that are, if somebody can literally come in and follow a proven process that will help you sell cars, take care of customers, and if you're willing to listen, willing to learn, willing to follow a process, have a great attitude, and be personable with people, that's the only recipe you need to get rolling. It really is.
So, I think in our industry, and I'm sure you have sales guys that are like this too, and in many respects, I sold cars for many years and really enjoyed that profession. I think people forget that in this space, advancement's a real thing. You're a case in point, selling cars now. You're have the highest level position in a store. But in between you and your entry level salesman, and there's also some branches of service department, parts department. Sure. Again, you could go from sales to be a finance manager, a used car manager, a new car manager, a general sales manager. So I think the latter, and if you're with a group like yours, it's not just that single store. Again, I know your group relocates managers all the time that want to advance, and to their credit, and that, I think that's awesome. So advancement in this industry, I mean, what's your opinion on that? Is it doable? Is it?
Yeah, it's a great subject, and here's here in a nutshell, our industry primarily promotes from within and grows our own.
Correct. Yep.
I very rarely see, not that it can't happen, so I don't want to discourage anybody that's in another industry already, that's maybe in a management level role that wants to transition. Those opportunities do come up, but most of the time we take team members that are in positions with us, like salespeople, service advisors, technicians, and we grow them from within. It's just an element of our industry that has been created, and I don't know why, that we don't really see transitions, right? I don't often see a management level employee from another industry transition over. In most cases, we want to promote from within. I think most companies want to do that. But our industry has been created so that we do see advancement as our next management team level.
Right.
So, in so many other industries, we see a high-level executive that could be, let's say, a COO of Pepsi, and the next day they're with Revlon.
Yeah.
It's two totally different industries, but the management elements are the same. That's not the case for our industry.
Correct.
Almost all the time, and we see our management promoted from the position just below it. And it does there's a ton of opportunity for that. Not to say that there's not. We have people take really two different paths in my experience. We've got veteran salespeople, I'm sure you've seen this, that have been selling cars for a long time.
Right.
Or servicing cars for a long time. They build their client base to the point that they're usually taking referral business only and previous customers only. And that's a really rewarding place to be too, right? You don't have to hustle quite the level that you do, and you build a great client base and customer
Correct,
base.
yep.
And then you've got the other element. If management is interesting to people and they want to try that out, there's tons of opportunities. We have several layers of management too, which
Correct.
is an important point. We've got, like you said, finance managers, used car management, general sales management, service management, and there's lots of
and some of the stores even like yours, I mean, if you still have that corporate appeal, I mean, even though I still consider your group to be family owned, because you're so large, you can go on and be over a couple stores, at some point if you decide to. I don't know why you'd ever leave your job, to be honest with you, but you probably think that someday.
I hope I don't get
promoted out
at this point. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
At our size group with stores in 4 different states, there's been lots of opportunities for people to promote from within. With our general management level roles, we are exclusively promoting from within.
Okay, I think that's awesome.
To make sure that we maintain company values at that operational level as we convey to the staff and customers and the overall culture what's important. That's an absolute promoting from within position.
So, I think, and you can relate to this, especially in your brands, I don't think people realize how complex some of this stuff is. Again, I tell people if I go to dinner with somebody, yes, I'm in retail automotive, we sell cars. I tell you that, and you know exactly what I'm going through. You're having to appraise cars. We're in a changing market. I mean, cars are commodities. I mean, especially you're talking about $100,000 cars that overnight could be worth, a third less. You're talking, again, financing. I always tell people we're essentially, actually to the FTC, we are basically a bank. So you have to deal with a lot of these regulations.
We're subject to the same regulations that lenders and banks are.
So I think people don't realize the complexity of what happens in a store, which kind of goes into what, another good point of mine is you take somebody in our industry and they make it up to a management level. If they decide to make a jump to another industry, you've had this. I've had successful sales guys that come through our industry. They may make the jump to mortgages, real estate, because almost the education they get there, especially on the finance part, is pretty. Yeah, again, you really couldn't go to school for a lot of this stuff. You're learning about credit and loans and things like that. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on that from the actual finance aspect of what you learn? I mean, can you think of anything quite like it?
No, there's a lot. Like going back to the complexity of the transactions that we do and all the elements. You learn a lot. There's the basics of selling, right?
Yeah.
That could apply to any industry, and you learn those in the car business. You've got a finance element you've got a compliance element that you'll learn, a customer service element that you'll learn. But going to that point, I was taught a long time ago, and one of the things that's always in the top of my mind when I talk to people that are looking to advance or looking for the next opportunity is, does somebody have 10 years of experience? Or do they have 1 year of experience 10 times over? And understanding the difference between what those two things are. If you're in a job or in a position that you're focused on just a narrow focus area and you're very good at it, there's no issue with that. But understanding outside of what your position is in order to gain new skills, right? Develop yourself. That our industry provides that opportunity because you're working with so many different elements, so many different parts to a vehicle transaction, that it does allow people to move to another industry and with skills that they've gained from the automotive industry.
Right.
For sure.
So not to get too in depth here, because I like to just put this out there. I mean, again, we can just talk in broad numbers because I kind of know what they are, but I mean, just income levels. I mean, I know of, higher level managers in the country that, that run Highline stores are making $3,000-$4,000 a year. I mean, would you agree with some of those numbers? I mean,
yeah, I mean, we've got sales. It's no secret, right?
Yeah, I mean,
we've got sales team members that will make a good quality career focused car salesperson is a 6-figure job. It has been for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I was 19, 20 years old and was in that bracket because
multiples of that in some cases for highly successful career focused driven salespeople.
Correct.
For sure. Technicians.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I do want to talk about that. So again, we obviously me and you are more in the retail space, but when you look, it's funny, just a small world. One of a salesman I trained that is actually in our BMW stores, a guy named Davis. His roommate is one of your techs, which is Caleb, who I've taken him to the track a couple of times. Big motorsport Porsche guy.
For sure.
So I mean, that's a great case point. So again, sales isn't for everybody. Some people don't want to come to work and be behind a desk. Some people would rather be turning wrenches and really enjoy, that aspect. I mean, talk about how lucrative a career that is. I mean, a Porsche technician or a BMW technician, it's a very well, career path.
There's so much opportunity in the technician field. And I think a lot of that applies to the motorsports element, right? If you're into cars, working on cars is the best way to be intimate with those, to work with other people that share a motorsports passion. We see that more, at least in my experience, in our service departments than we do our sales departments. We see it both places, but our technicians are typically gearheads too, right? They're not just doing that because that's the craft or skill that they learned and they're doing that to make a paycheck. They're doing it because they like working on cars, or they had generationally they have worked on cars, and there's lots of opportunity there. That is a very quickly changing income level currently in today's market for tech,
because it's so hard to find.
It is. We're seeing that across every industry, right? Skilled technicians of any type, labor in the trades are hard to find. We don't see people going to school for those types of things much anymore. So there's been a focus industry-wide on making sure that we recruit quality people into our technician roles, that we pay them competitively. And we've seen a major jump in income for technicians. I can say not just with our brand, but several brands. We're seeing, compensation ranges with, entry-level technicians, in the mid 20 some dollars per hour. As you gain more experience and more training, we're seeing technicians in six-figure ranges regularly, and that's not limited to brand at all.
No, correct.
We're seeing that diesel technicians, especially in certain parts of the country. I mean, six-figure incomes for automotive technicians is absolutely here and here to stay. They're hard to find. They're the lifeblood of what we do, keeping the cars on the road, and they're making it happen there in the back, if you will, in the shop. But it's ultra important. I mean, they're the lifeblood of what we do.
And it kind of goes back to when people say, the dealerships are going away. No, they're not. Again, you have, I mean, and even so, I mean, you pull up in a new Taycan today. I mean, that, again, the level of, I don't think people realize any manufacturer, could be a domestic, it could be it could be Porsche, it could be Mercedes, BMW. The level of training that the manufacturers invest back into the stores. I mean, I know we're sending out techs all the time for training. I'm sure you're doing the same thing, that they're investing money to make these professionals. This is not changing oil like people think.
No, it's really not. I mean, nowadays, all of these cars have dozens of computers in them. I mean, these are advanced pieces of machinery.
I mean, look at the EVs.
Pieces of technology. And, EVs don't even have a traditional internal combustion engine to turn wrenches on, but they still require technical skills, technical training. Almost every manufacturer now has a technician training program, whether it's BMW STEP or Porsche PTAP or MB Drive from Mercedes-Benz. Almost every manufacturer has a program that a young person, or any person for that matter, could enter into that program directly with the manufacturer, get factory training, and then be presented to the dealer body, to us dealers, as here's a trained technician that you can hire, and we pay the manufacturer for that. We fund the program by paying the manufacturer to acquire those technicians to come and work for us. So those interviews are really interesting. They're really fun. I feel like a college football coach when those technicians are coming out of that program and they're going dealer to dealer interviewing because they are in such high demand. And we tell them all the reasons why to come here, right? Why do you want to come work for us? Why do you want to live in Jacksonville, in our case? And the motorsports element of that, of our team that we have with the Brumos lineage, the Spec Boxster that our team maintains and is built.
I'm familiar with the car,
when they see a race car on display, they see the race team with the Spec Boxster team, they're like, man, I can be a part of that. I can, I like race cars. I'm into motorsports, and you guys are doing that here. That's been a major recruiting tool for us. I'd say in all our store's grown a lot over the past couple of years, right? Doubled in size from, the size of our building and parking. So we've hired several technicians over the past year and relocated several. And one of the best recruiting tools that I've seen is our motorsports focus that we have, because the technicians have interest in that, in our Porsche Classic department.
So, I think too that for me, before I ever stepped into a race car, I was selling cars. So again, because of what I was able to do and the lifestyle I was able to make, when I first started, yeah, I was able to buy a car and and spend the disposable income on doing that. So I think that a lot of people don't realize that. Yes, again, the success that we've had has helped pay for a lot of some of the fun stuff we have, unlike that. So just kind of talk about that, a little bit. I mean, some of the lifestyle that we live is, very comfortable lifestyles on that. So, I mean, what's your advice to somebody that's looking at this as a career? I mean, again, give them some thoughts coming from you, somebody who's done very well.
Yeah, some things that, one of the things I love about anything that is important, anything worth doing, it takes dedication. It takes commitment. It takes genuine care. This industry is no different. What it provides is, we talk about, you mentioned earlier, there's two different sides of the business you can go into. What we call variable operations, which is sales and finance. And then we've got what we call fixed operations, which is
back of the house. Yeah.
Parts, right? And the two, as you decide on which element of those you want to go into, clearly, if you're sales oriented and you like to talk to people and you're personal, that makes a lot of sense. But for a lot of people, it's the time off, right? It's the schedule. And that's something that is, you asked earlier, what are the challenges with hiring? And car dealerships are typically open on the weekends.
Yep, exactly.
And that can pose a challenge for hiring. A lot of people would prefer, if all things considered equal, I'd like to work 9 to 5 if we could, but that's just not the hours that our business operates.
Correct.
However, when you take a look at our industry, I mean, we're open Saturday, your store's open Saturday. We get a day off during the week.
Correct. Yeah.
We work a 5-day work week. I think most companies are interested and focused on a balanced work-life balance there. We're not working retail hours at the mall or restaurant, right? We're not on deployment, right? We're not traveling for work. Those elements don't exist. You're home to your family every night working in retail automotive. You get 2 days off a week at almost every place that I know. So the schedule's really great from the perspective that.
So, I think a lot of people that's a common thing. And I should say, we're both really spoiled because we get to work for really good groups. And so, and I want to put that asterisk out. So if somebody's looking to get in this industry, there are some, it's like anything else. There's certain groups you want to get and you'll find out who they are. You can ask around. So yeah, there are some stores that will do the 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. hours. Me and some of them, they're on our same street. Yep. But if you can find a great place to work in this industry, and again, it's like anything else. If you're going to be whatever business you're in, find a good home. So we are a little spoiled on that. So I will say that.
That's a great point. Our companies work very well together.
Right.
Our executive leadership have great personal relationships and working relationships with each other. And we try to mirror some of those elements of our business that are taking care of employees that way. Once you determine, if you get into this industry, once you determine that this is a career for me, this is what I want to do, finding the right home and sticking with them and growing with them is important.
And that might take some time.
It does. And we see every industry experiences turnover. The car business, we do see quite a bit of turnover.
Correct. Yep.
You see a lot of people going back to what we originally talked about. This is just a job for me for a while till I find out what I want to do. Not everybody's going to determine that's my career. Hopefully, and if you're hearing some of the stuff that we're talking about today and you get the right mentor and you get the right person, I hope we get to talk about that a little bit. They can point in the right direction for a successful career. Finding the right group, the right management team, the right brand to be with to develop your career is important, I think. And those right groups and stores are going to be the ones that have good work-life balance with schedule, the ones that you don't see a lot of turnover with. And you can build a successful, meaningful, rewarding career. But choosing who you do that with is important. Yeah,
and again, you might have to go to a couple different homes and give it a shot to do that. And I don't ever like to encourage that because again, I've been spoiled. The group I started my career when I was my first job, I'm still with. But I do want to talk about that a little bit. So probably one of the highlights of what I get to do, besides playing with cars and and selling cars, is I've been given the opportunity because of my position to hire people, promote from within. I'm a huge believer, of promoting, I've taken, employees that were washing cars, making minimum wage, and now they're making very, very good incomes for themselves. So because that was me, I got promoted from within, and one day, and I'm 25 years old, they say, hey, we're going to put you in charge of a couple $1 million of inventory. Good luck, but they believed in me to do that. So I always believe in kind of giving back. So give me your opinion on that as in your position is, do you find that as, kind of one of the highlights is being able to give back and promote from within?
Without a doubt. Some of the best management that I've worked with before, and leadership and mentors, to me, it's unanimous. Seeing the people that you have an influence on grow and be able to be successful is the most rewarding part of our job and should be our main focus area, without a doubt. And, you heard me say earlier the term genuine care. I believe that you can't genuinely care about somebody without getting to know them a little bit. We talk about that, is there a line that you draw? And in my position with the store, we think, do I draw a line between, what my relationship is with them in the workplace versus, do we venture into a personal relationship and care? And that's one of the things I like about the company that I work for, and I know yours is the same. And that's our belief, that you can't genuinely care about somebody unless you know them and care about them personally a little bit too. And seeing people grow is the best part of our job.
Right.
You're absolutely right about that. We have seen in our group, we have at least 3 that I know of, maybe 4 general managers that were technicians with us. That's an abnormal career path, right?
It is, yeah.
You don't always see a technician move into an operational role at a high level for several reasons. But we create that career path for anybody, regardless of where you start in a dealership. Several instances in our group of people that started in our car wash and porters. One of my closest friends runs the sales department of one of our larger stores, was in the car wash when he started, and has worked his way up, including one of our vice presidents of the company, same way. So you're absolutely right about that. Any good leader that I've ever worked with agrees unanimously. The success of the people that you have had an influence on is the indicator of your level of management and the influence that you've had.
No, and again, too, this in retail in this space, this is, this is a really good ground, proving ground to be able to get people from the bottom level and pull them up. And I always feel like when you do it like that, they work a little harder for you because they're they're invested in you. So. Let's kind of transition a little bit here. And I want to talk with you because I respect you as a friend and as a mentor. Talk about that a little bit. Some mentors in this industry that you've kind of, I know in mine, my GSM and my COO who, have had a profound impact on my life. I could call them right now and say, hey, I need your advice on this. So, just, again, any people in this industry, and you don't have to name them, but lessons you've learned kind of coming up through retail.
Yeah, great point. And that's a subject that we could talk about all
for
day.
days. Yeah.
People ask me, it's a very simple answer when people ask me, what would you say to somebody getting into the industry, or what do you suggest for me to see success in my career path in the car business? And it's very simply mentorship, a mentor-mentee relationship. Successful people like to talk about what made them successful, right? I have very rarely meet people that are successful that don't like to talk about it to people that genuinely care about that. But the mentors that I've had have clearly been the biggest influence on where my career path is and my success, and I hope that I'm nowhere near done with that. But whether it was the general manager that hired me or the sales managers that I worked under, developing that relationship, finding a mentor that's willing to take you under their wing and teach you what they know. Let's not reinvent the wheel, right?
Right.
And there's some entrepreneurial people out there, and I'm not one of them. I can share with you now, I'm not entrepreneurial, really. I'm not that creative. I like to work hard. I like to feel like I step back and do a good job and focus on what my work is. But I have learned from my mentors over the years and didn't try to reinvent the wheel with them. Listen to what they have to say, follow their instruction, and find somebody willing to take you under their wing. And I think that that's, if you give somebody the opportunity to do that, I think you'd be surprised how many leaders, managers, people are willing to take you under their wing and teach them. We have a term in our industry in the sales side of it, house deals, right? Or you got a house mouse or somebody.
Oh,
right?
the bane of my existence. Yeah.
So it's just a brief explanation of what we mean by that. In the sales department, the management team will get leads in cars.
I come in to buy a car.
Right? Yeah. And those opportunities are given to somebody to handle, right? You get a family member that comes in or a friend that comes in, and we give those to handle. And sometimes there can be some resentment amongst the sales team of who those deals go to, right? Because they're not always spread evenly. And I can share with you, when I have somebody that calls me that says, hey, I want to buy a car from you and I'm coming in, who should I work with? I'm not going to look at how do I fairly distribute this.
I agree. No,
I'm looking at who is going to provide a level of service that this customer deserves, expects. And the sales team members that have focused on making sure that they're following those processes, that they're doing a good job, are going to get those opportunities.
Well, it's the same thing. Again, I think it's funny you say that, because I think every single manager in this industry experienced the house deal fever, where somebody gets upset with it. And I'll tell my guys, straight out, again, I'm going to give it to somebody. And again, and usually it's the same people, because those are the guys that are performing at a high level. They go the extra mile. Again, when they come to work, they're 30 minutes early. I could ask them to help me out and run some of the detail. They're there for it. So I mean,
it's going to get done.
And it's going to get done. Yeah.
It's going to get done right. And that's where those opportunities go to.
Right. No, I agree with that. No, I mean, that's something. So, again, you brought up, a lead coming in or something like that. This business is so different. Again, I started in this 11 years ago. I can remember how things have changed, where that was just where you could just start looking at cars on your phone, and you could just, leads were coming in, basically by email at that point. We didn't have CRM. So talk a little about that transition, how you've seen the business in the past decade, because that's kind of the same time frame I've been in, and kind of where you see it going, because I think that's an interesting conversation.
It really is. The industry's changed a lot. The advent of the internet and buying cars online is the largest change that we've seen since the advent of the retail automotive. And our online presence is important. Customers are looking to get information as quickly as possible. So understanding, what do I need to do to handle this internet lead or this opportunity? When an internet lead comes in, it's implied, I want answers to my question quickly. I want information very quickly, right? And as the salesperson, that's what's important as a salesperson, is you want to get to them quickly. You want to be as attentive as possible from a priority standpoint. But yeah, that's changed a lot. We talked earlier about, there have been several companies that believe that they can transition the car sales to completely online.
Right.
And it is possible. Frankly, we've seen Tesla be successful with that model. It's not the bulk of what the retail industry is right now. Most people still want to test drive a car.
Right.
Most people still want to touch and feel a car. Most people want a relationship with somebody that's going to walk that transaction through, because it is complex. But we've had recently, this is the next change, I think, and challenge that we're going to see going down the road, is that manufacturers have seen the Tesla model and said, you know what, we can sell those cars directly to those customers. Maybe we don't need a car dealer to do that. That's the fight that we have in our industry right now. From the sales side, they're still going to have to service their cars, as you alluded to. They're still going to need their car worked on. But that's the biggest threat that we see from a sales department side now, and what I see is the biggest challenge going forward. So
let me ask your opinion on this. So again, we're in the same market, but I think that there's several, I'm sure you agree, I think there's several flaws with that idea.
There is.
First off, most manufacturers have a very healthy respect for their dealer networks. Again, now, could they do away with them? Maybe that's what on their mind. But I don't think people realize the power of car dealers as a whole, as an industry.
Sure. Yeah, as advocacy for the customer.
Correct.
And that's what's most important about the franchise system remaining in place as car dealers, is that we are the advocate for our customer base from the manufacturer. And we have influence over our customer base.
Right.
And the manufacturer knows that. The healthy competition that we have between franchises as dealers, that creates higher levels of customer service for our customer base. If everybody's going to the same place, to the same retailer for that product, and they don't have competition in the market, whatever level of customer service that they offer, that's going to be it.
Yeah.
As even with our two stores,
right,
we both have great products that we sell, and the level of customer service that we can offer to those customers is the difference maker. So competition in the industry breeds a higher level of customer satisfaction. As franchises, we're advocates for the customers, for sure. Not to mention that we're employers.
Correct.
We're involved in the community as car dealers. When's the last time that you saw a manufacturer or a large company sponsor the local baseball team, football team, and the things that we do locally in the communities? I think most people across America would say that their local car dealership they've surely seen an impact in their community through sponsorships, through jobs, et cetera. It's an important element of.
And again, too, like, again, at some point, again, I can guarantee you, like, we have a Tesla store in our market here. Again, I don't think that Tesla store is, like you said, I don't see them sponsoring anything locally, no charities. I don't see them giving back to the community at all. So, and yeah, I mean, again, as a dealer network, as retail automotive, as a whole, I don't think people really realize how powerful an industry that is as far as for advocacy, whether it's in politics, whether it's in the community. We have a lot of pull. Again, the NADA, people think that's just a valley guy. When you actually look at what that is and the impact on a national scene, it's pretty impressive. So, okay, we got to talk a little bit about some fun stuff here. Motorsport, you kind of talked on it a little bit. One of your salesmen, Chad, I've raced with him. I got to race against him a little bit. So, just talk a little bit about that. I know we touched on it earlier. Racers kind of in your store and kind of how you think it helps with customer service and the brand.
Sure. We have several different elements. As you mentioned, we've got 2 of our technicians have built a spec Boxster race car that the team, 2 of our sales team members, one of which is no longer with us, Mike Gorman, who, that went on to form Open Throttle Track Days and Open Throttle Racing. And when he was with our team, him and Chad on our team, they team drive the spec Boxster that was built right in our shop by our technicians. Several of our team members have been part of that, have been to the track to crew on the car, and that's been really exciting to watch.
And I've raced against it at some point,
And the store's involvement in grassroots motorsports translates to the customer base so well.
Right.
They have come in and they've seen the race car with Porsche Jacksonville on it, and they've seen our team members, and they're like, wow, this is I didn't realize that you guys offered these services. So one of the things that we do is we offer complimentary track day inspections.
Okay, really? Okay.
Yeah,
that's
so
pretty
I don't know
cool.
if you knew that we do that. And we want customers to come in and we'll check over the car, and several DE groups require
of course,
an inspection before you go out with them, and we do those complimentary. We do it so that we have an opportunity to hopefully see what the upcoming maintenance schedule looks like for that car, and hopefully be the choice
so they can offer it,
to do that later with us. But additionally, beyond our spec Boxster race team, we've got one of our technicians that crews on a mini John Cooper Works Mini. Team you're familiar with.
Reagan,
yeah. So we've got several of our technicians that are involved with DEs regularly, members at the firm, or regular members that autocross, PCA, DEs. The pastime of going to the track together, especially for our technician team, is one of the ways that we build camaraderie with the team. But it's a shared passion and interest, and our customers see that because we see them at the track, right? We see them at the track. We see them. When they come in and they want to talk about the race, they see the race car, and of course they go right to it. Most people that buy and own a Porsche have some sort of performance, car interest, especially if it's a 911 or sports car.
And I can relate to you because we're a Mazda dealer and a BMW store.
Same.
So again, you're talking with gearheads, you're talking with car guys, and again, just going back, that's why I just don't foresee that model of big box selling ever going to work. I mean, people are involved with their dealers on that level, and especially on certain brands, this is the only way it's ever going to be. And I always tell when I'm training young salesmen, listen, always remember that this industry has survived recessions. It's survived COVID. It's survived anything you can think of. It's probably the most resilient industry I can think of. And you never really bet against a car dealer because they always seem to somehow
find a way.
We'll find a way.
I get through any market and challenges, and we've seen that. And just over the course of our careers over the past decade, we've seen several different type of markets.
Oh yeah,
some good, some challenging, and the team of people that work in the car business are surely the persevering type.
You never bet against the car dealer. Is kind of what I always tell people. But all right, so kind of I know we're running a little bit long on time here, but I do want to kind of just circle back around. For you, sum up retail automotive as a career. Is it? Obviously we're long enough in that I know I will forever always be involved in this industry, you know, again, and even me, I'm young enough, you know, I'm still in my 20s, that one day I look to a guy like you that's still, you know, young, and you're having immense success as a general manager. So I'm like, maybe one day I can go move on and be a general manager somewhere, you know, or you know, advance my career. So what is your take on it as an industry? Just put it in a box for me. For somebody watching this, thinking about this industry, just give them some words of advice and your thoughts on your own career.
Sure. Yeah. An easy industry to enter. I think that's important. We touched on that. Doesn't require a fat resume. It doesn't require schooling or a degree to get into, and provides a great income opportunity. I mean, six-figure incomes in each of the departments that we offer are very regular to see. Lots of advancement opportunity because we do grow our management positions from within. And even if management's not for you, each of those departments that we mentioned, as you get more advanced in your training, as you get your client base built up, your income goes up with it. Your ease of performing the work is, you know, happens, and you get into a groove that's really rewarding. Schedule's great, you know, by all comparable standards compared to other retail industries, and again, it's provided a great living for me. You know, you asked me earlier, I started selling cars. You know, not everybody enters in the business of selling cars, but for me, it was selling cars. And like you, I got an opportunity to manage a used car department and a new car department, in fact, and then used car department, and then got an opportunity to run a store, one of our Mercedes stores, and then ultimately at the Porsche stores. So for me, it was important. What I was most interested, I loved selling cars. It was great. I loved managing a used car department, a new car department, but where I really had the most interest in is people and helping people realize their goals, coaching people, developing the team. And that's why I transitioned towards a general management role. And that's...
Well, I think I've been in your store several times. And one thing that's always, and I've noticed this, and I don't even know, you're never really in your office, and I don't say that as a bad thing. You're always greeting customers. You're out there, you know, and I can tell just because I know what's going on. You're out there helping a salesman with a client, or you know, so I think that, you know, again, I've been around this. I've seen some of the best, you know, managers, and they're out there and they're involved. I've seen some really not so good ones, and you know, the people management of this business is really, you know, a big deal. But you know, like I said, I know we're running a little bit, you know, short on time here, but man, I just really appreciate it. I think that. You know, again, I know for me, it's a personal goal to kind of give back to this business, and I'm doing it every day by trying to help, you know, get more people into it. So I wanted to get this out there publicly because, again, we're car guys first. I mean, again, and I know we talk shop a lot, you know, but it's cool because we're usually doing it at a racetrack on our day off, or you know, we're doing that.
That's how we. I mean, we knew of each other,
but that's how we really met. Yeah, that's how we became friends. Was at it as a, you know, and so
frankly, we've recruited people from being at the racetrack, and you know, developed really good working relationships with each other, you know, store to store. But you know, quite simply, if you are going to get into this industry, it is very rewarding. Determine early and make the decision this is a career, not just
I think I agree that if you buy in, the most successful salesman I've seen, or anyone in this industry, if they buy in that, hey, I want to be here for a couple years, it really shows in their work ethic, you know. So I agree with that.
Determine early that this is a career, it's not just a job. Find a mentor that's going to help you advance in that goal, and genuinely care about the level of customer service that you're giving to people. And you know, with those three things, the sky's the limit for where people can go from advancement or income.
Yeah, and I'll leave this one last point, and I want your take on it. I feel like in our industry, we're probably one of the last industries that still believes in the art of selling. I don't know if you agree with that. I mean, there's very few other industries where, again, we are in customer service, but we have clients, and we are doing a service of selling. So just the last point. I mean, do you think that you know, it's a dying art, the art of selling, and that we're kind of keeping it alive in many respects?
For sure. I think most people know from a sales process, the car business is one of those where you can overcome objections and sell somebody something and close them on a car deal. We talk about that. You know, quite simply, helping somebody get out of their own way of doing something that they want to do is is what we do. You know, so many of the retail experiences have gone to one click. I already know I want that. I read the reviews on it. I want to do it. But the car business isn't like that. We've got a lot of uncertainty in the car business, and helping customers through that uncertainty and get out of their own way of doing something that they want to do requires that the art of selling.
I agree.
It really does.
One last thing. When are we racing the Porsche?
We're getting very close.
You keep telling me. I've seen that car progress throughout. Yeah. I keep looking at it.
You know, we have a mutual friend, Andrew Bechet, that called me. He's like, "Hey, I got this great opportunity on this Porsche Cup car," and I wasn't even in the market for one, and I knew it was a project, and I really bought that car as a project for our team to do together with Porsche Classic and with all the motorsports interests that we have in the shop. You know, this would be a great team building opportunity. We've two of us, my shop foreman, Mitch, that's going to crew on the car and run the car, and me both have had children in the past several months. And yeah, so we had some priority shift, but no, we definitely got to get the Cup car together. It's getting really close.
So HSR 2023, me and you, we can
love that to be.
We can get Gorman out there too, but no, like I said, the camaraderie.
See time for some coaching.
I know we'll have to figure something out, but Aaron, I appreciate it. I think, like I said, I think some of your thoughts are going to be a service to a lot of people considering this as a career. And nevertheless, they got to meet a cool guy in the industry that loves Porsches and loves cars in general. So
yeah, most of us do. Yeah, if you love cars and you love racing and motorsports, it just makes sense that, you know, the automotive retail industry is going to be filled with people that are like-minded and create lots of opportunities, open a lot of doors.
Well, man, I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for your time, sir. And they can find you at Porsche Jacksonville.
True. Yeah.
Awesome, my friend. Well, thank you so much, man.
All right. Thank you, Gino.